What's up, people? It's Doc Smith here with my boy Ball and McGuire. We are back. It has been a minute since September 22nd, I believe, was our last show of our first season when we had the next generation of black male educators on. And then we kind of went on a little hiatus, post COVID came around and we had to really run a school with a whole bunch of kids inside it and not virtual. So we've been kind of doing that. And we're going to kind of get into kind of where we've been at as we go throughout the show. So I'm gonna let David, kind of talk a little bit about what you've been up to, since September, so pretty much the whole school year. Then we'll get Ball, and I'll kind of circle it back out. But we happy to be back in the lab for sure, for sure. So DMG, what you got, baby?
Man, what's up, fellas? What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Excited to be here. It's been a good year. This has been the first year without any interruptions for us. We got 2 days left, so I don't want to jinx us. But first year without interruptions. Got back to teaching and learning, so not really worried about masks too much, not too much worried about barriers. Social distancing kind of went away. Obviously, we were still monitoring, and we really got down to teaching and learning. So that was really good. Truthfully, man, we saw a lot of gaps. A lot of gaps with kids, a lot of gaps with teachers, right? People talk about how kids have been out of school, man. Teachers ain't taught it either in a couple years. And so we had to also get teachers stamina back up and things like that. But, it's been good. We've been celebrating the past 2 weeks. We get out of school Friday. So our kindergarten first graders went to the zoo. We took our sixth graders, went to Kings Island, which is a theme park in Mason, Ohio. Anybody Midwestern people know about that. We had field day indoors, but that was great. We just had our sixth grade promotion ceremony tonight, had our kindergarten promotion ceremony last night. So it's been about celebration. My kids, they got to wear their uniforms for the rest of the week, so they've been excited about that. And summer school starts Monday, June 6th. So the grind doesn't stop until July 8th. And so it's good to be back.
Awesome. That's a great update, Dave. I'd say, a lot of the same things. It's been a very interesting school year for us. I mean, opening up on August 10th, we were back on campus for the first time with all of our students. Masking was a requirement, and our school is like in the center of the district. We got a nice little spot here, and the couple of days before, our district communications team was like, hey, we need a volunteer to have a place for the media to come. So I was like, hey, let's do it. Let's do it. So we had the media come in, and one of those first questions that they asked was, what are you going to do if a kid's not wearing their mask? And I said, it's going to be a conversation to make sure they're right. I know they wanted something controversial, but I wasn't going there. But it's been very interesting with the ups and downs of COVID. It is still out here. We started off with masking all the way up until March. It didn't become optional until then. We didn't see a whole lot of COVID. I went through it myself back in September. Made it through, my whole family. But we're all good. But I would say that just all the different challenges of being back on campus, kids getting to know what it's to be like back on school. I mean, our sixth graders, because I'm at a 6th through 8 school, and our sixth graders, they hadn't been in school since 4th grade, and so adjusting to those types of things. And Dave, you hit it. Teachers adjusting to those things. I think we weren't super hard on the whole discipline thing. We were just trying to get everybody back on campus. But back in February, it just came to a head, and we had to make some decisions about what we're going to focus on. And then the teachers, they were in a space, and we had to address that. And once we addressed it as an admin team and as a site team, everything went smoothly when it comes to behavior. We're in our last couple of days right now. Our 8th graders just came back from their trip to Six Flags up in Vallejo, about an hour away from us. And tomorrow we've got their promotion, so it's exciting conclusion to the end of the school year. I've also had the opportunity to participate in the AASA equity cohort. So it's basically it's superintendent's focused, but I think we had about 7 or 8 staff members, district level, and school principals from my district, and we're just learning about equity and what folks are doing across the country, led by Dr. Lavelle Brown, who's the superintendent in Ithaca Public Schools. Tracy Davis is the lead soup in Starbase Henderson in Nevada, excuse me, and then Moore Anderson, who's the associate executive director of AASA, and they've been doing a great job. We've been hearing about policies and how you lead a school district with an equity mindset, culturally responsive practices, and just learning all the different things that folks all across the country are doing to provide an equitable space in their districts. So I've learned a lot about that with that. And this Saturday, June 4th, we are able to do our Ignite session. So we get to share what we've been implementing as a district as far as equity goes. But fellas, it's good to be here. I know we're going to talk some celebrations once we get to Doc Smith a little bit, but we've got some celebrating to do with our teachers as well. So appreciate being back and being back in the saddle, riding with y'all.
So man, this year has been a wild ride, at the happiest place on earth. Most people think it's Disney World, but it's really Grandview Middle School. So kind of going back, I'm just going to hit some highlights. Before I get to what happened at GML, I just want to talk personally and professionally. We had a chance, me, the super producer, and Doc Locks had a chance to do some work with David School this year. Shout out to David for kind of giving us that opportunity. So I got a chance to go to Indianapolis, Indiana, visit David School. It was an amazing trip. Got to be a part of the morning meeting one Friday as well. They had a whole 6'4" Chevy Impala rolling through the gym. So went. I don't know the name of the restaurant, but we went and got some bomb pork chops and Kool-Aid. I know that while we was down there. Got a parting gift though, because I came home and had COVID after I left Indianapolis. So, but that was an amazing time. I got to work with some phenomenal people at his building. One of them, we'll get into our celebrations later, talk about her accolades that she got, probably not because of me, but I'm on a little bit of that. But as far as my school goes, everything I went through with my assistant principals last year, we talked about it. It's been well documented. So I had a chance to really go out and recruit and kind of bring together my own team. So I had my assistant principal from my first year, my instructional coach from last year, who is now my other assistant principal. And then I had a chance to bring in another instructional coach. And man, my team has been so dynamic. We just got our predictability assessment data back, iReady data we took 2 weeks ago. And some of the high points is my 7th grade class in reading, we have 55% of our kids on grade level. Started the school year only 22%. So my 7th grade ELA teachers went hard. School-wide, our goal was we wanted to have 75% of our kids tier 1, tier 2, which means that they're either on grade level or 1 grade level behind. And at the start of the school year, my entire staff thought I was like out of my mind, crazy having a goal that high. I mean, the district we never had anything like that as far back as we can, research data. So while we didn't hit the goal, for math or reading, I am happy to say though that we did have 68% of our kids in reading tier 1, tier 2, and we had 73% of our kids in math tier 1, tier 2. So shout out to my team this year for all the hard work they did. And we collected a little bit of hardware this year. So let me go ahead, so put up the trophy. So if you didn't know, I was nominated and actually won the Greater Kansas City Middle School Principal of the Year, my 3rd year as principal at Grandview Middle School. So, but when they came, the funny thing is when they came to present me with the award, we were having a administrators meeting at my building. And the people came in, it was 2 guys from the organization, the Greater Kansas City Principals Association came in, and we're sitting there. So the superintendent's like, hey, we want to kind of give them the floor for a moment. He started walking up to me, and this was right after the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing happened. So I thought I was gonna have to, put some work in, because dude started walking up on me. But he said, we're actually here to, honor this young man right here, Dr. Smith. You are the Greater Kansas City Middle School Principal of the Year, and I'm rarely at a loss for words, but I definitely at that moment really was just shocked. My whole staff, came in, so they asked me to share a couple words, and really the only thing I really had to share was this award says my name on it, but it's really my team that won this award. Everything that we've done over the last 3 years at Grandview Middle School, really changing that school community, is based on the team. All I did was provide the vision, but they're the ones that's doing the grinding on the day-to-day with students, making it happen. So super shout out to my entire staff at Grandview Middle School, the ones that are departing us to move on to bigger and better things. And then those that have been with me since day one, since I've been there, we've really been putting in some work. So big shout out to them. I'm super excited to see what state testing data is going to look like when it come back in. And just, I mean, we're excited. We done with the school year. Unlike y'all, we've been done since Friday. Had an emotional moment last Wednesday. It was my 8th grade celebration day. And that was the actual group of students who were 6th graders my first year. So my first group I've taken all the way through middle school to finally see them go off to high school, had some great interaction with parents afterwards and just some pleasant comments about, in the midst of everything that has happened with that group of kids, because their last normal school year was 5th grade. So their entire middle school experience was, COVID pandemic related. But to see how they performed this year post-COVID was amazing. And then kind of also some other things that we were just excited about, some of our discipline data compared to, after pre-COVID, we are actually down in the number of ISS, OSS days, really trying to build strong relationships. Attendance really wasn't where we wanted to be, but, we kind of gonna blame that on COVID and kids being quarantined. But so, I mean, it's been a great year. I'm super excited about what next year is gonna look like in the midst of doing my last couple of hires, to get my team ready to go for next year. But super happy to be back on the air too, as well. So I do want to transition, and we talked about a lot of celebrations.
Wait, hold on.
Before we transition.
Yeah, hold on. Go back to that. Go back to that. Because I would be wrong if I didn't express what this means for the show. So I think we got to put this in context for folks. So he was the middle school principal of the year for the Greater Kansas City. And so I'm assuming that's more than one school, more than 2 schools, more than 3 schools. And so, if you didn't know, we're trying to bring credibility. And that is a major accomplishment. Smitty, man, congratulations to you. I got one issue, man, and you know what it is. The one picture of you getting an award, you got on some sweatpants. And so I just trying to figure out.
Let me give you some context.
No, we don't want no context. I just wanted to put that out there, y'all. Smitty had on sweatpants and a T-shirt when he was honored. And I put it on Twitter. I did. I celebrated my bro in his sweatpants and his T-shirt. But, bro, we happy for you and excited, man.
Tell him, Doc, it was a work day. It was a work day.
It was a professional development day, and I'm all about social emotional self-care. So actually we took our entire staff to Chicken and Pickle that day, and we had a whole entire team builder playing pickleball and obstacle courses and things like that. So they called me on a bad day, but I stay suited and booted when it comes down to it. So we can, keep it on.
Which is why I was disappointed. Because you all.
But I blame my APs because they knew I was getting the award that day, and they didn't kind of give me no kind of hint like, "Hey, bro, bring a polo that day" or nothing like that. So, but I also want to give a shout out because David, for the 2nd year in a row, has the Indianapolis Elementary Teacher of the Year in his building, who was actually my mentee. So, like I said, that's why I'm taking a little bit of this credit because she was my mentee this year, and she actually won the Indianapolis Elementary Teacher of the Year. So you got the Principal of the Year in Kansas City Elementary. We like a mad collabo.
Hey, and listen, she got another award that's about to be announced in a couple days.
I didn't want to say it. She texted to me, but I didn't want to say nothing. I didn't want to say nothing.
She got another one that's coming. And I got to give a shout out to Unc, man, because his mentee is about to transition out of the classroom and get her first opportunity as an assistant principal. So I knew I was going to get some quality when I hired them on. And so I appreciate you all. Definitely appreciate Doc Locks as well, because got some big on the horizon too for my boy Wallace. So again, the teacher leaders, man, had an opportunity to get that coaching, and so some big things are happening. So I appreciate y'all, and we be back for year 2 in September.
So I just want to put that out there to all y'all people listening. If you're looking for some top tier,
come on now,
teacher, you need to holler at me, Unc, and Doc. Like I said, we got one that's about to be assistant principal, the other one that's a teacher of the year. Like, we put in this work and growing people. Engage just ain't a podcast, baby. We really growing educators. So right. If you're looking for some top tier coaching, get at us. You see the Twitter handle right there. Get at us, and we can get that contract together for y'all.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna take any offense to not being invited to Indy. So I'm gonna just hang here, doing my thing.
Now, hey, listen, Trailblazer. I'm giving you a Trailblazer. I can tell you about Trailblazer, man. It was it.
Okay. So since we are talking celebrations, I didn't add this to my to my intro, but we've had the opportunity. So we were nominated by the state of California for National Blue Ribbon school for 2022. So we completed that application and submitted that at the beginning of May. So we'll find out in September. But again, just like all the recognition that y'all received, it's all about the people that we have in our school that are doing the work each and every day. So I just want to give a shout out to my Iron Horse Middle School family, because they're the ones that got us this opportunity. So we'll see what happens come September.
Man,
We already go ahead and we're gonna just go ahead and claim it. Iron Horse
Yeah.
Middle School, Blue Ribbon School, National Blue Ribbon School. We just go ahead. I want to be the first to say it. I just want to be the first to have said it.
Appreciate that.
And I'm gonna second it for you. All right.
All right.
What we at next, Smitty? What we about to talk about next?
So we gonna kind of turn the tables and get real serious on a topic that I pretty much know everybody in education in the country, unless you've been sleeping under a rock the last week or so, is aware of what took place at Robb Elementary down in Texas. It's been about a week ago, a little over a week ago, where an 18-year-old young man went into an elementary school and gunned down 19 innocent people who were just, trying to educate and be educated. And there's a lot that's came out with the story since then, as far as how it all went down, as far as how the police reacted, and things like that there. But I feel like in this space, us all three of us are principals, two of a middle school, one of an elementary school, school leaders, but also two of us have a military background as well. Just kind of have take some time to really just talk about our thoughts on the situation, as far as how it played out and transpired, as far as the knowledge that we know based on what the news has reported. And then also, really, how can we help calm some of the fears of our school communities to make sure that this doesn't take place within our own school communities, where we are school leaders. And I'll just give you a little caveat to the story. Literally the next day after that took place, on Snapchat was posted a threat to my school, where someone said they were going to bring an AR-15 and shoot up my school. And we had to take some steps to kind of ensure that didn't take place, as far as just making sure that there was, find out if it was credible at first, and then also what safety protocols we were putting in place. And the sad part about it was that next day was our 8th grade celebration day. So not only are you bringing in our student population, we're bringing in, close to 600 people to be a part of this 8th grade celebration at the exact same time. And really just trying to calm those fears of that. So I want to kind of just lay the foundation. That's kind of where we at. And then I'm going to throw it the ball, give him a chance to kind of speak on it, and then kind of, lead the conversation as far as just that reflective piece first of kind of where your thoughts are with the whole situation. And then we'll kind of circle back around and talk about how are we handling things in our school if a similar situation to take place, but also how are we doing things we're doing to prevent that from even taking place or getting to that point. So.
Yeah, I would have to say, after finding out about the shooting, and I don't even really pay attention to the news, because I've got my own family and work to do and stuff like that. But just hearing that, these little babies, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds were shot by some kid that had just recently purchased a weapon, and for whatever reason, it doesn't make sense, and it's hard to understand why someone would do that, and then just to think about all the lives that are impacted, those parents that sent their kids to school to finish out the school year, and then they hear about this, and then all the different stories, them waiting outside while the gunman is still in the classroom and the police haven't entered, and all those types of things. It's just hard to think about that. And and we'll talk about it, probably going on forward, but because we're all parents, we've all sent our kids to school, we're in the school building, and it's just like, is it safe? And these places where these are taking place are just, regular communities like ours, and there's nothing that stands out about them, and there's nothing that's out necessarily about my community. But what's to say that it couldn't happen? So it just makes you, constantly thinking and reflecting. And honestly, you can go into a dark place just, as a school leader about, thinking from that military background, and we'll probably talk about this, but, how soft is the target of my school? You looking at the entry, looking at, ways to get out and all those types of things. I mean, it's just nerve wracking to know that you're responsible for however many kids. I've got over 1,000 students in my school, and just to know that their parents trust me with their lives, and just to see, the responses of these families, and just think about what they're going through. It's really hard to deal with, and to come to school that Wednesday. And, unfortunately, we had a very similar type of thing come in Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is. Kids posting something, inappropriate, and a, a a threat to our school. So we have to, just like you said, Doc, assess that and make decisions to keep everyone safe. So I mean, just processing the whole thing was really, really difficult last Wednesday, and it still is today. Dave, I'll pass it on to you for your reflection before we get into the next.
Yeah, so I'm a principal of an elementary school, and so I went back to December 14th, 2012. It was my second year teaching, right? And that's, if for those that don't know, that was the Sandy Hook murders, where 20 first graders were gunned down. And I was at work. We were getting ready. We were doing dismissal. I think my dean was like, "Man, there was a school shooting in Texas, right?" Just kind of threw it out there, and I was like, "Damn, that's get home, kind of turn on the news." It was like, oh, it started building. Went to sleep, woke up, just checked my Twitter feed, man. The number had went up to 18, and I found myself, man, crying because I'm at an elementary school. I'm a principal of elementary school, and these are babies. Those that have ever worked in elementary school, raised elementary kids. I mean, you're talking about between the ages of 5 and 10, 5 and 11. And to hear that somebody with a assault rifle went into a school, went into a classroom, locked the door, just gunned down kids and gunned down teachers, it hit differently. And then hearing that, they were swabbing parents for DNA. And then to hear that and again, I'm not passing any judgment because I wasn't in that situation. But then hearing officers were in the building for X amount of minutes, and it was X amount, and they didn't breach the door and anything. Yeah, I don't know protocol. I know you guys will talk about that from a military background. I'm sure you have some training behind that, and I don't have any. But when you talk about the lives of children, the lives of people, man, the hell with the book, right? I mean, you got to try to say, because you gave ample time for these kids to be slaughtered. And so that angered me, that brought me to tears. And then just to hear how people were politicizing it, and how you can't see the importance of why we need certain laws, it was just hurtful. So I went to school the next day, and I'm trying to tell my kids this, and started crying again, because I was looking at them and seeing the pictures of those kids, and it hits differently. And we got to do something. We really got to do something. And I'm getting emotional now thinking about it again, man, because it's just, these are children. And then your parents who've lost their kids for something we probably couldn't prevent it, but I think certain laws could have kept it from happening, right? Could have kept that weapon out of that child's hand and things like that. So it's hurtful, but I hope we can use this and make sure it doesn't happen again. But the numbers are ticking that, obviously we'll be back here talking about it again, unfortunately. So we'll get into the safety things we're doing at our school, but those are my reflections about it.
And my biggest reflection, and I've had this conversation with several people since it is taking place, is help me understand why the common citizen needs an assault rifle. Like, why does the common citizen need an assault rifle in their possession? Like, I just don't get that. And I don't think you can make me ever understand why that is the case. And not just the fact that you have that, but also you were able to buy 2 within a 2-week time span. So it feels like that there's just like no accountability. And I was gonna kind of say this for my final thoughts, but I'm gonna kind of say it now, is that I feel like the school shooting situations that we've been through, Sandy Hook, Columbine, we can name a number of them over the last 20 years. And when we came on the air our first episode 2 years, which has been 2 years. That's crazy. 2 years ago on Juneteenth, in the height of the summer of 2020, with the whole, what was going on, Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. After another police officer killed a black man, an unarmed black man, and I feel like there's parallels because these events happen. Everybody sends up their prayers and their concerns about that, but as far as making actual change, nothing changes. And it's funny because 2 weeks ago I was in church, and the emphasis of the message was prayer without faith without works is dead. Like, we continue to pray and hope for change, but nobody's actually doing, the people that can actually do the change and make effect change, all they're doing is continue to send up prayers, but they're not actually doing anything to enact change. Like, once again, which I go back to my original point when I started this, was like, I don't feel that there's any reason why a common citizen needs an assault rifle in their possession or in their home. I just don't know of any. You ain't going out there hunting deer with an assault rifle. You ain't hunting, animals with assault rifles. So I really don't understand the purpose behind that there. So that was kind of just the thing that I just kept taking away from that. And, the other piece that I took away from it, and I went back and kind of emphasized with my team, is how he got into the school. And I feel like, and no one's talked about it, but that teacher that went to her car to get whatever, that propped that door open that he came through, like, I hope somebody's getting hurt, like surrounding her and giving her some comfort or counseling or whatever, because you would think a small mistake like that wouldn't cause something so catastrophic. But that's what I said, went back to my team, and they, ever since COVID happened, have been, basically bitching and complaining at me, like, well, why do we always have to come through the front entrance? Why we got to use the front entrance, right? Like, it's for reasons like this. So we always know who's coming in and out of the building, because you can say, oh yeah, I parked in the back, I'm gonna prop this door open, but you never know what can happen in that 30, 45 minute seconds, or that minute that you're walking out and propping that door open and going to your car. So that's one of the, just that school safety piece, is making sure that we are securing the building at all times, so that people can't get in to the building. Having that one-way entrance before, and my school was built in, it's a pod, a style. So I want to say within a pod, 3 of the 4 classrooms in a pod have a door to the outside. So there's multiple entries and exits out of my building, all the way around the building. So making sure at all times, teachers are being diligent, but then also that we are training, educating our students to be diligent. When you see a door open, shut it and then report it to an adult. Like, we don't need you to come and report it and leaving it open at any time. So that's the one thing that we always are trying to emphasize in our building, is just making sure that our building is staying safe and secure at all times. If you're leaving the building for whatever reason, whether it be you're going to the outdoor classroom, to gym class, going to the football field, you are reporting to the main office, here's where we're going to be. We give you a walkie-talkie, because you could be out in the field and somebody can run up on you. You could be out in the outdoor classroom or at the pond behind our school and somebody run up on you. So do you have a walkie in? Hey, here's what's going on, whatever it may be. So those are some of the precautions. And I can't say that principle in the moment what I would do. I know there's a lot of prevention things that we try to do, and we try to practice, but in that moment, I think some people might just, like the police officers, freeze in that moment. And then they talk about metal detectors and SROs and things like that. But if we go back to the shooting that happened in Florida at the school, the SRO didn't even want to go into the building. So that's not the answer either, is having more SROs or having metal detectors, or having teachers or administrators carry weapons. Because my thing is, if you are the police and you don't want to confront somebody with an AR-15, why are you asking me as an educator to do
it? I think that whole folks carrying guns on the campus is crazy. Just, I mean, the police officers, they're trained for that. They have to get certified. I mean, Doc, you've been in the military. Like, if you carry a weapon, you got to qualify on that thing annually. It's not just like, hey, this is yours, you do with it what you want. I mean, you talk about, being on a military post, man. If you live on post, like, you have to register your weapon. You have to go take it to the provost marshal office. Like, they literally store it. They give you a receipt. And I mean, these folks are highly trained to have these weapons and use these weapons. And if the military goes to that length in order to keep people safe on a military post, just like you said, Doc, why, how can I, as someone as an 18-year-old, just because it's legal in my state, get as many weapons in a short amount of time. It really makes no sense. I mean, and think about all the things that we have to do as educators, all the different situations that we encounter. I mean, can you imagine, like, I'm a teacher, I'm doing my thing, I'm in class, this 9mm is rubbing into my side. Let me just go ahead and set this on my desk real quick. And then what? Oh, I forget it. I leave it in my classroom and I forget it. I mean, there's just so many different things that can go wrong with that. And I mean, again, we got these police officers that are trained. Hopefully they're able to execute, what they needed to do. But, just like you said, I mean, it's hard to say what you would do in that situation. But, when I think right after, Sandy Hook, I was in the classroom. I was teaching high school, and we had to go through those drills and things like that. And then I've always said, like, hey, if someone comes in here, I'll do what I need to do. Y'all follow right behind me because I'm gonna distract them, and we need to do what we can to. I'll take it, whatever we need to take to keep y'all safe. But I mean, and it's hard to have that mentality when you go into a classroom because you got so many other things to worry about. You trying to get those reading scores up, you trying to get those math scores up, you trying to teach these young people how to be good people, and then you got to keep about that in the back of your head. It's tough. It's tough out here,
man. So I'm with y'all, and I appreciate you all's perspective, with the military background. And I think, Smitty and Ball, you said it. I think, no one's trying to take people's guns, right? I think that's the notion that people get, right? And so, the Second Amendment, it reads, about it's necessary for the security of a free state. I'm almost certain that back in 1571, I think it was, when the Second Amendment was ratified, I'm sure they didn't let everybody buy a cannon, right? I'm almost certain you couldn't just go get a cannon and have a cannon. That's what we mean by the assault rifle. What do you need an assault rifle for, right? Like, it's not, we're not saying we're taking your guns away. We're just trying to regulate the type of guns that regular and random people are buying. Because like you said, those weapons are used for the security of the country. And they're given to well-trained individuals who are using it for protection, not just an 18-year-old, and whoever wants to have them. And I think, that's part of the issue. But when I think about, school safety from the principal, from the school lens, right? So you have to buzz into our school. So we have a camera. They hit the buzzer. Office manager says, how can I help you? Right? I'm here to pick up so-and-so, right? You know what? We'll send them out to you, right? If you're picking up somebody, what you need to come in for? Now we sometimes we buzz them in. They come through another vestibule door. They come to the main office right before they get to the classroom, and we ask why they're there. We'll walk them down to the classroom. Obviously, with COVID, we have things like that. But we're very tight knit. But we used to have a dismissal process where we let parents come in and get their kids, right? We just open the doors. They go to the rooms and sign their kids out. Now we have a process where we walk the kids to the car, right? So things like dismissal, where you can have a lot of free flowing traffic, we kind of limited that. When it comes to school safety, every year we do the intruder drill. And so again, I have kindergarten through sixth graders, right? So the night before, I send a message to the parents. Parents, tomorrow we're having our active shooter drill. Please talk with your kindergartners, because what we do is they go in a room, they cover the windows, they lock the door, they barricade it, and they get out from side of the window. So we go to the outside of the school to peep into to see if we can see them, so they try to hide. And we bang, kick, shake the doorknob, and make noises. And we teach our scholars to remain quiet, right? Don't say a word. But it's hard when you have 5-year-olds because they're terrified. So every year, the first time we do it with kindergartners, what do you think happens? They're crying, they're scared, then they go home and they're like, Mommy, somebody tried to break in. Daddy, somebody tried to break in. So that's why we always try to beat that home. But we start that drill as young as kindergarten. And we do it every year, 4 times a year, every quarter. The frustrating thing is, why do we have to do that? Why is that a drill that we have to practice? When I was in school, I remember practicing a tornado drill where you go in the hallway and put your head between your legs, and the fire drill when you got out the building. That was it. Now we have to add active shooter to the school. And, that's just sad. But, that's kind of some of the ways that we're regulated. But after every shooting, right, we're constantly thinking about ways that we can improve. So I'd be curious to hear from you all at the middle school level with older kids. What is your school safety protocol with people coming in, people going out, and then how do you prep your kids in case something like that happens?
So, I mean, we kind of got the same setup. So you walk up to our front door. There's a buzzer there. It has a camera. It goes to two different people. So just in case of one person there, not there, the other person is there. The kind of thing is, can we help you? I'm here to pick up someone, so I'm here to drop something off, whatever it may be, or I'm from one of our contractors or whatever. And then we buzz them into our vestibule area. So then they're kind of in between. We call it the cage area, and then we have a sliding window that our secretaries can talk to the person out that's in the vestibule area. And if they're there to pick up a kid or whatever business, we ask for an ID. So we get their ID, and we have a system called Raptor that we run it through to make sure that they don't have any kind of sexual predator type of things and stuff like that before we just release a kid to them. Also making sure they're on the emergency contact list that we can release them to that. And I mean, we let even after COVID, we let very few adults in the building unless they have business in the building. If you want to visit a classroom, I require, and I've done this since my first year, I require 24-hour notice. And there's a form that we send home that you fill out, you send it back, you tell me the time that you want to come or what class you want to come see. Once again, just so that we have accountability of who's in the building at what time at all times. We do the intruder drill. We actually have to do it 3 times a school year. As you know, that's a Missouri policy. So we do it 3 times a year, and kind of the same thing, locked door, out of sight type of thing. My APs and my counselors actually get off on it because they come in with masks and everything and trying to do the most during that time. But really, when we have classes that aren't following the procedure or protocol, whether we be hearing talking or people getting like, we'll make that class like, hey, we gonna do it again until you get it right, because it's situations like this that can cause you to not be here. And now I gotta talk to your parents about why you're not coming home tonight, or I gotta go meet your parents at a drop-off site and tell them, well, we're not dropping you off to them. So I think for us, it's really having those conversations and making sure our kids, because middle school kids can be very immature, but helping them understand the importance of this situation that they're facing.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We don't have a buzzer entrance into our main office, and that is definitely one of the weakest areas in our school, because we keep the door unlocked, and folks can come in and they they're greeted by one of our front secretaries, and they're the most vulnerable in our school. We've got an attendance window where folks can come and sign up their students, but if they're dropping something off, if they want to have a conversation, if they have a meeting with a staff member or with me, an administrator, then they're able to come right in, and they stop at that front desk there. So that's something that I've been thinking about quite a bit. But for the most part of our campus perimeter is gated. So we've got a main quad area. We've got our gym is detached, but there's fencing to make it all seamless within the campus. And then our back area is gated, and we've got several areas that we've got cameras, but we don't necessarily have someone back there. And so we've got an area that is adjacent right next to a soccer field. And so we've had our 6th graders, they need to go run and play and stuff. And so that gate area was somewhere that was a good place for folks to leave, but there's no key entrance to that area. So if someone went out there, it was left open. So we've had to adjust that procedure so that if someone's going out there, they've got to use the gates with that provide key access. And we're, like I told you at the beginning of the show, we're like in downtown, the central part of our city, and we are adjacent to Central Park, which is a large park that folks come in and out of. We've got a trail that runs past our school, and it's, I don't know how many miles long it is, but people running, people jogging. There's a transit center on the opposite side of the trail, so like there's random people at our campus all the time. We have our PE is outside, and people are walking through PE classes, and they're hey, this is a public area. No sir, ma'am, this is a school during the school day. You see that sign over there? And so I mean, it happens like just about every other day that is a thing where we have an interaction with a community member. But it's so hard. I mean, live in a beautiful area, but it's so hard when we've got that close connection with the city, and we've got, pretty open access. So it's it's a challenge. It's a work with our city, we work with our school district to figure out how we make this the safest place that it could be. We go through the drills. I think it's a lot of talking, a lot of discussing, like what to do here, the steps. We talk through those things, because the anxiety is high, even in it was elementary, middle school. Folks, just like you said, can get upset. I mean, like that 5-year-old, shoot, that's a 13-year-old in some cases, that whatever they're going through, whatever they're feeling, it's all real. So that's where it come from, the safety. Again, my background, just seeing different entry points and exit points and egress and regress and all those types of terms. it you can go into a lot of different places and want to do a lot of different things. But I think, the most important thing is that we're, showing love to our kids and our families, and telling them, like, us being leaders, like, we're going to be out front consistently to communicate with your kids, so that, they can be as safe as possible.
And one of the things that I think is important in this situation too. I don't think it would have been beneficial in this situation, because this young man was a high school student, or a recent high school student, and went into an elementary school and shot it up. And of course, they try to pull the whole he was being bullied and things like that. And I'm like, well, he wasn't being bullied by elementary kids, like So I'm not trying to really hear that argument. Not saying that bullying is not a real issue or anything like that there, but one of the things I think that for another layer of prevention is that relationship our schools have with our community and with our parents. Like I said, the day after this happened, we had a threat made to our school. And I want to say, when I woke up that morning, I already had, 15 messages in my Facebook inbox with a screenshot of the threat from my parents saying, hey, my son showed me this, or, so I think that's another layer that we need to also educate our community, our parents on. And I think a lot of times we think about the school itself and keeping it safe, but how do we educate our parents? Like, hey, if you see something, say something, type of thing, and really make sure that they are also monitoring their kids' social media, because that's a lot of times when kids are being bullied, or if they are getting ready to act out. Even like with this young man, they said that he was sending messages to some female that he was gonna go shoot up a school and things like that there. So how do we communicate with our community and say, hey, we need you to partner with this as well, because you're probably gonna know about something going on in the community quicker than I am. So that's important as well, I think as well.
So as we think about, each of us are principals and things like that, how do you each feel? And Ball, I'll go to you, man. How do you feel principals should be trained to deal with crisis, right? What are things that principals should know? So again, I know we got a lot of folks listening, got a couple future administrators. I'm gonna shout out my girl, Ashley Ford is in the comments. She's in her principal program at Marion University, so I want to give her some love. So we got folks like that.
Ashley the Great.
Ashley the Great, yep. So how do you feel like principals should be trained to deal with crisis? What advice would you give, and what do we think we need to do to get them ready in case of things like this?
Yeah, I think we have so many examples, unfortunately, of these, crises, school shootings, whatever the case is, and we need to do some case study work. Honestly, I mean, I maybe I can count on one hand the amount of training that we've done when it comes to crisis and crisis management. It really needs to be a focus, because some folks just aren't built to handle challenging situations, like in the heat of the moment. And you're not going to know that until it actually occurs. But if you've planned it and prepared for it, then that is probably the best way to go and prepare someone. So we need to be doing some case studies. We need to be bringing in folks that have experienced these types of events, so that they can share the best practices, like the actual things that have worked and what's not worked. Like, bring somebody come in assessment of my school, like, what are the, where is it likely that someone could gain access, or because gates gates is only really a deterrent. If someone wants to climb over a gate and a fence, they're going to do that. So how do we best mitigate? Once someone is on campus, what should we be doing? I mean, I know we've got these drills, we've got, organizations that do this type of training, but it's sad, but it needs to be a priority that admin are focused on training and understanding how this is how we handle crisis management. I mean, we're out here in California, we got earthquakes and all those types of things. Practice those things and get those subject matter experts on your campus. That's my thought.
So I think crisis management goes beyond just the school shooting. I know that's kind of the topic where we're at because of the situation, but I think there's other situations that they don't train principals on. There's no class on it when it comes to crisis management. Losing a kid, from a tragic accident. Gun violence is real in the urban community. So how do you handle, that process? I know grief counselors are there, but you are the school leader. So, the community's gonna be looking to you. So how are you helping that? One thing that I faced this year that was new to me is we had a student that was abducted. And was missing for like 5 days. And, lucky enough, they were able to locate her, through, some people in the community kind of speaking out, hey, I saw her with this guy, whatever. And that was a whole situation, just her during that time. But then the part that I thought was going to be easy, that was more of a struggle, was when, how do we reintegrate her back into the school? That was a whole other thing. And really trying to figure out the best way to not re-traumatize her, because once again, it's a middle school. So when you come back, your friends are going to know what happened to you, but her reliving that experience was going to be very traumatic. So I think, like you said, Bar, like finding people in the community, our education community that's been through these things, the principal down in Texas or the principal from Sandy Hooks, like instead of ostracizing these people thinking they did something wrong, that day, like, what did you do in that moment? If you could go back and do it again, what would you do differently? Go back, look at, talk with the superintendent or, whoever, like, how would you have better secured that school building? Like, that's the piece I think you talked about with that case study is let's go back and get those people that's been through these things and find out what they did. But more importantly, what didn't you do? Because I feel like we can learn more from what we didn't do than what we did do. So, but not just looking at the school shooting thing, but like, there's a lot of different things I think that principals have to deal with on a day-to-day basis and face and have to navigate. The amount of decisions we have to make in a day, I don't think people truly understand. And then on top of that, for us, we also then have to think, how is this decision that I'm going to make be viewed because I'm a Black male leader? Am I going to get the same pass that somebody else is going to get if they made the exact same decision? And that's what I'm facing now, is like, as I'm making certain moves and things like that, I'm like, are you questioning my decision based on this situation because you don't like it, or is it because I'm a Black man telling you to do this? So I think that's a whole nother layer that I think that people don't really understand that we on this show face that other people don't know about.
Man, both of y'all hit the nail on the head. I would say, I always ask, how many school leaders and schools have a crisis intervention plan? And not something in your head, but like an actual plan. Secondly, do you have a team of folks, right, made up of a variety of stakeholders, right? Leadership team, teachers, parents, community people, kids, right? And then how often does that team look at the plan, make adjustments, and then is that plan shared with the broader community? So in the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about how we deal with parents, but then you got to have a plan, a team, and then how you communicate that plan to everybody that's involved. Because I think, one of the things that I think I heard in this whole thing was they said, well, they couldn't get in because they was waiting on keys from the principal. And I'm like, damn, only the principal got keys? Right, again, there's a lot of things are coming out. But I'm like, so you trying to tell me the principal's the only one with keys, right? And if that is the case, what is the backup, right, in a crisis? All right, principal ain't here. Who's next in charge that can make the decision that says, go in there or whatever, right? So, like, all those things are important. And so, again, we shouldn't have to think about those things, but that's the reality that we're in. Virginia Tech, Columbine, Sandy Hook, right? Now, Robb Elementary, I'm sure, God forbid, I'm missing some other places, right? Because these things are happening, we've got to have these plans in place. But like y'all said, like, whether it's a student in your building, like Smitty said, gets abducted, or a student gets killed, which happens so often here in Indianapolis, where kids are getting murdered in the street, right? How do you then help those kids the next day in school that was their friend, that was their cousin, that was their brother, that was their sister? What do you do? And God rest her soul and her family, and I'm praying for our sister school. They lost their assistant principal suddenly. She was at school on Friday, got sick on Sunday, passed away the following Wednesday, right? Cardiac arrest like that. How do you then go in and tell that to those students, tell that to those kids, and then be there for those teachers and everybody like that, right? Like, how do you respond to that? What do you do? So we need plans like that in schools, because that's what social and emotional has taught us. COVID brought up social and emotional. All that is a part of that, right? Like, how do you help people overcome those things so they can be in the space and be successful? And so school leaders need to get that. I don't know if that happens in preparation programs. I don't know if that happens in, city or statewide principal fellowships, because there's a million of those, right? Those things need to be acclimated. And if they don't, then it's important on us as leaders to share with other principals, new principals, and principals say, hey, what's your crisis intervention plan looks like? What's your crisis team looks like? And how can I help you? So those are things that I feel like we need to do, because a lot of people don't know. And it's becoming just as important as teaching and learning, because it takes a prop door, or it takes a deranged person, like you said, Smee, who was bullied at their high school, apparently, to go into an elementary school with kids that had nothing to do with you being bullied and gun them down, right? So we just got to be prepared for that. So
I think also the thing we need to hit upon as well, because we talk about how we, as leaders want to stand up and kind of really calm the fears of our community and comfort our community. But then, like, how are we processing that? Like you said, that's your sister's school, that assistant principal, was there Friday and then never came back. That principal hired her. That was her right hand. And now she's gone. So how does she process that? When did, like, does your community give you as the leader time to grieve and go through the things you need to go through? Like, you don't always have to be that pillar for everybody else. Like, who are you leaning on? Like, when do you get to say, you know what? Hey, I've been here for y'all. Like, I need y'all to be here for me now. I think that's another piece that we don't want to, brush over or fly past, is the leader getting time to process that. Because like I said, with that student, when they came back into the school system and we sat there with that mom trying to figure out a plan, and I'm looking at this little girl like, how do I help you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but then also, like, this is hurting me, because like, this is one of my kids, like, that I've, groomed over the last 3 years. So also, how are we as leaders making sure that we are taking the space and time to make sure we're okay, and that we're not always the one carrying the load, because eventually the load is going to break us down.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We've got to make time, whether it's another principal, whether it's a family member, just to open up that dialogue, because there's so many different things that we face and we deal with, and that folks don't even understand. Unless they're sitting in these chairs, they don't really understand some of the things that we see and have to manage. And taking that time is crucial. I know that, like, last week we had us out of space with another principal. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and we try and do like a weekly meeting with the informal gathering with the other middle school principals in my district. There's 8 of us, and when folks can hop on the Google Meet, they hop on. But it was just me and one other principal, and we just were able to reflect and just take some time. And it was just like, after those types of things, it's like, man, it feels good to have that conversation with somebody that can relate and understand. And you can just listen, and you're not asking a bunch of questions trying to help me with a solution. I just need you to hear me. And so, any families out there, of our family members, if you have someone that's an educator, just check in on them, ask them how they're doing. It could be that simple, and it could be a huge, huge difference in their day.
So before we get out of here, I also want us to talk about, in crisis, how do we engage our parents, right? And so, just briefly, like, how do we engage parents in a time of crisis? I think for us, we just try to be, open and honest. I know after, the school shooting at Robb Elementary, I just sent a message, on our class dojo page, and it just simply, it read, I just sent this to the families. I said, good morning, Summit families. Like many of you, I know my heart aches and hurts for the families and the school community at Robb Elementary. The murder of children in school is becoming far too common tragedy. We will create a space for scholars today to discuss it. but we encourage you to talk about it as well. I just want to reiterate that safety is our number one priority. We will continue to update our safety protocols, and we ask for your support in this effort. Please speak up if you notice anything within our system that can be improved for the safety of our scholars and our staff members. It will take a collective effort to keep everyone safe. So I just wanted to send that to one, is express what happened, talk about that we'll create the space, encourage them to do the same, but also they're part of the system, right? They're part of the arrival. They're part of the dismissal. They've been there with certain tragedies. How have we handled it? What things can we do better? Because ultimately, they're the ones that impacted it. So it's just important of bringing them into that space. And so I know one thing that I'm going to think about for next year is when we're creating that plan, instead of creating a plan and rolling out for parents, spend a couple of our parent universities meeting with parents and going through that and getting some conversations before we finalize the plan. So just making sure that they're part of the process in the beginning and not just at the end. That's the one thing we're going to do.
And for me, real quick, the big thing is being very transparent in situations, whether it was the Robb Elementary, where was the threat made to our school. I know the one thing we did at our 6th grade celebration, like I said, was the very next day, is we did have a moment of silence during the celebration to acknowledge those, families that have lost someone. But also asking parents, what is it that you need? How can we help you in this time? Whether it be, we may not have all the answers, but we may have some resources that we can plug you into. Like I said, our Cornerstones Our Care is one of our wraparound services that we use. So really making sure that we are providing resources to the parents, just like we are for the students as well.
Yeah, I'll just echo that communication piece. I think is really important. The situations that we've dealt with on our campus, I try to be as clear with parents and staff as well, because that's one of the things that I'm learning is to be better with that communication and making sure that folks are able to anticipate some of the things that are coming up. So having that communication flow is really important. And just like you said, being honest, being transparent, what the decision-making process is, and then holding space. Like if parents want to come in and ask questions or give you a call, send an email, I just encourage them to do that if they have questions.
So look, we're at that almost that hour point of the show. So we're gonna end it with a little bit of outros. We started the show with celebration. We kind of had some heavy topics there in the middle. So I want to make sure we close it with celebration. So mine is more so housekeeping, right? And so we are back. This is season 2. We was on hiatus. It's kind of like waiting on power, right? You had that season 1. Then the contract with Stars didn't quite work out. People negotiating. Folks winning middle school principal of the year. They want more money, right? I got another fellow who on here, bro on here. They about to be a blue ribbon school, so he want more money. And I'm just like, I just want to do a show. That's it, right? So, but the contract got signed. We locked in for season 2. So in case you don't know, the Engage podcast is bi-weekly on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Season 2 is about to be crazy. Follow us on Twitter, engage_podcast. Like the Facebook page, the Engage Podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube page, the Engage Podcast. You'll see us here. Also, check us out on the A Black Hands channel, is what I'm going to call it. And we back in the rotation. So shout out to super producer, Unc. And just make sure you catch us bi-weekly. So that's my outro. It's been great, fellas. Good to be back. Smitty, I go to you, and then Ball, you'll take us home for season 2, episode 1.
So like I said, we always about giving people their flowers. So, he already talked about Ball, about the principal of a blue ribbon winning school. We already know about the principal of the year thing. Shout out once again to my crew at Grandview Middle School. But I want to shout out to David, who was on the verge of finishing up not only his doctoral program, but is also a class of 2022 Surge Fellow, which he didn't want to bring up. So shout out to him for getting into the Surge Fellowship, doing mad things in Indy. And now he has back-to-back elementary principal or teachers of the year in Indianapolis. So shout out to him as a leader out there at Tinley Summit doing big things. So for me, my outro is in 2.5 weeks is going to be Juneteenth. And everybody, I'm not going to get into the commercializing all that that's going on with Juneteenth, all that. I just wanted to say one thing about Juneteenth. Juneteenth 2020, we brought 3 Black male leaders onto a show. And we have dropped fire after fire after fire. If you have not followed the Engaged Podcast, formerly known as the AOS Podcast. Like, you need to go check the Twitter channel, the YouTube page, wherever you get your favorite podcast at. Because I mean, that season 1, we had some hitters on there. I mean, we was giving away books, we was giving away free PD. And like I said, season 2 is about to be fire. Like, if you thought Top Gun 2 was hitting, like, because it was been like decades since they had the first one, you don't want to miss not one episode of season 2. Like, we got some stuff lined up for y'all, and really making it practical for us. So if you want to be a school leader, if you a teacher wanting to move up, if you an assistant principal want to move up, if you a principal saying, hey, I just need somebody to listen to. I've been on Twitter several times and people are saying, hey, what are some good podcasts for school leaders to listen to? Make sure you mention the Engage Podcast, because trust and believe, you have, like I said, a Surge Fellow on here. You got a National Blue Ribbon winning principal on here. So you definitely got some school leaders that can talk about things that I don't think other people in our spaces can talk about, because they don't face the same thing we face, especially if you are a leader of color. So that's my outro. I'm super happy to be back. And I'm gonna say, you know, my contract ain't quite got signed yet. We want to see how this show is gonna go, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and sign the contract and send it to Unc after we done.
Oh, fellas, it is good to be back with y'all. It is so good. This is, you know, nourishment to my soul to have the opportunity to talk, you know, about the education space, the things that we're facing, the things that we see on a daily basis. I hope that everyone's already listened, and if you haven't already, like, subscribe, join us every other week moving forward, because you're going to get something. You're going to get something, a different perspective. We're going to share some things, and you know, where else are you going to see great looking young men like ourselves that are leading schools? But I just want to say thanks for everyone for joining us. We appreciate you. We love you, and we want to continue to add to this educational space, so, you know, we can have more Teacher of the Year, so we can have more folks following, and, you know, because we're following in the past that have been laid for us, and we want to do the same thing. We want to lift as we climb. So thanks everybody for joining us. That's it for me.
We out, y'all. Peace.
Go Mob.
Huh?